Welcome back, everybody, to the next episode of O and Two Heroes, the podcast where we are all fists and no facts. Welcome back to the next episode. Still trying out that slogan. I think I like it. One of our guests submitted that as a slogan one episode. I've used it for the last three, and I think it's sticking. So good job, Red Fox. But we got a new episode. We got a new guest. We have a new game today. And I'm sure you'll recognize instantly, but this is exciting. We have an international guest today. So please, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adam Forrester. I'm the host of Revival and Extinction, video games and anime podcast, where I play a game for about 5 hours and then tell you how good it is. And thank you again, Mikey, for having me on for this game.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for accommodating the weird time zones to do this. I'm very excited. I've had one international guest on before, but he was from Canada, and that's almost like a neighbor to me. I don't know if that counts, but this is like the real deal here.
Oh, yeah. Big time difference. I'm sure one of us it's an inconvenience for, but we made it work.
This is tomorrow for you. We're recording on different days right now.
Yes, yeah. I'm speaking to you from the future.
So before we get into the game, before we get into all that, please tell us a little bit about your podcast. I know you mentioned you play games for about 5 minutes, but to tell us more about your podcast, how the idea started, if you have a favorite episode, this is your chance. Go take it away.
Yeah. So I started Revival and Extinction because I had a massive backlog, like over 1,000 games at one point. And I was in that kind of mode where I was playing a lot of games but not finishing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So over the course of a month, I'd start probably 50 games but not finish any of them. So I'm like, well, no, I really need to knuckle this down. And the easiest way to do that is to start a podcast, because it kind of forces you to finish it or at least get through it to talk about it. So I started off with the caveat of, at least 5 hours for a game, because that's a decent amount of time where you can generally glean enough from it to be able to talk about it reasonably well. And then I thought, no, well, that's not really meeting what I want either. So I want it to be at least, but nowadays I do try and finish the game completely. So my release schedule is a bit all over the place depending on the length of the actual game. But yeah, I basically finish it and then talk about it. And I'm starting to breach into the same with anime, because I just watch so much anime these days as well. And there's so many good shows that people miss out on, or that are hidden gems, because there's so much released every season. And there's a lot of shit that you have to sift through as well. I'm sorry, can we curse? Can I curse on here? Is that okay? Yeah, cool. There's so much shit that you have to sift through every season in anime, and a lot of that goes under the wayside as well. So that's why I've kind of expanded into anime as well for the podcast. But you can find me anywhere that you have podcasts, Spotify, iTunes.
And listeners, if you're in the middle of driving right now, don't frantically scribble down the podcast name. I will have all of the notes for it in the show notes, so you can go check that out. I will say I appreciate that explanation, because I knew you did video games. I did not know that you recently got into anime, which is cool. I don't watch a lot of anime myself, but I enjoy listening to people talk about anime, because then I still get it just like, oh, cool. I kind of know what's going on in the zeitgeist right now. But yeah, very cool. Very happy that you're here. And we kind of came to this game together, but how about you tell our guests what game we decided to play today?
Okay, so Guilty Gear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a long name, so that's why I'm quickly scrolling up to Google.
Oh, you are good. Oh.
So Guilty Gear XX accent core plus R.
Yes. Okay. So I think
basically, if Elon Musk made a Guilty Gear game,
that would be its name. I don't know about you, but I think from here on out, I'm cool calling it just like plus R. I don't think we need the full name. Just there's no way I'm gonna remember that.
I'm very cool with that. Yeah.
Call it a plus R. Yeah. So a lot of fighting games have very long names every time they get a new edition of it. But I looked into it, and this is the 5th Redition. So there's 6 altogether. For our listeners at home, there's Guilty Gear X2, X2 Reloaded, XX slash, XX Accent Core, XX Accent Core Plus, and then XX Accent Core Plus R, which is the one we'll be playing today. I forget which server it is. I think it was the Pixel Project Radio Discord. You posted a picture of, I just bought all of the Guilty Gear games on sale. And then I was like, ooh, that's fun. One of those is on the list of games I want to cover for the podcast. So it's kind of like a joint decision from there. You helped me narrow it down.
Yeah, well, the Guilty Gear bundle, it was going on for Nagel, I think, and it was just so cheap. And I'd never really explored much about Guilty Gear in my fighting game history. I can talk a bit about that if you want.
Yeah, please, by all means.
Yeah, so basically, I've been a gamer since I was about 5, and my first real exposure to fighting games was on the PS1 with that beautiful demo disc that made the rounds, and it had Tekken 2 on it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that really opened my eyes to what fighting games were. After that, because I was more a Nintendo kid, after that, I kind of fell off fighting games. I played Smash, the first Smash and everything. However, it wasn't till original Xbox that my friend at the time, Josh from high school, and I really need to thank him, got me into the awesome, I call it a trilogy anyway, of Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, Deception, and Shaolin Monks. And I've still got the Deception.
Oh, nice.
You guys can't see it, but yeah, I'm showing Mikey the Deception case that I've still got on my shelf to this day. So Mortal Kombat was a big series for me, and I didn't really get into Axis Games, who made Guilty Gear, a little bit later on with Persona 4 Arena when that came out, and it was tag team battle, the one with BlazBlue, Persona 4 Ruby, and Under Night, I believe. That got me really into fighting games. And then, of course, my love of anime made me play all them as well. The DBZ fighting games. I didn't own a PS2, so I missed out on Budokai. But Raging Burst and all those ones up to Z Fighters now, I still play. Xenoverse, I don't mind. It's a bit, yeah, it's not my cup of tea, I think. 3D fighters, I'm more a single screen fighter. But that's my basic overview of fighting games.
Yeah, the thing that stuck out to me the most was I also never played the Budokai games, but I remember it being really popular. And at the time, like some of my classmates had it, and because I couldn't play it at lunch, they would just bring in the instruction booklet from like inside the case, and I would just read that on my lunch break. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I wish I could play this.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's very cool. Very, very excited to do this. Like I said, it's been on my list of games to cover for quite a while, and I never like asking people, hey, can you buy this game so we can cover it on the podcast? Because I don't want to put them in that position. But I got this on sale for I think a handful of dollars, and you got it on sale independently. I'm like, oh, this is the perfect match.
Yeah, and I've loved Axis for a while because again, once I got exposed to BlazBlue, that just opened up a whole other world for me because there's a million games in that series as well, with deep lore and everything. So Axis, I went through and looked at the developer, and it's like, well, I've actually played about 9 or 10 games by this developer previously, whilst it being my first Guilty Gear game.
Now you mentioned Blaze Blue, and if I was a better podcast host, I would look more into this. But I think the reason they made that game was because they thought they temporarily lost the rights to make Guilty Gear. So they wanted to make a game similar enough to it that it filled the void, but not similar enough that they got in trouble. Because I think there was some copyright dispute between if they had it or if Sega had it. So they go, oh, we'll make Blaze Blue instead. And then, and now we have both of them because they just continue to work on both of them. But that's another game like Guilty Gear that I want to get into. I feel like, so growing up, I was into like, I was real boring. I was into like the Street Fighter and like the Mortal Kombat and the Tekken. I never got into like the anime fighters until I was older. And I feel like I've never played a Blaze Blue game. I feel like I need to get one and like jump into that one next.
Oh, well, I've got some recommends for you, that's for sure. If you want a starting one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get into this, what's your favorite Blaze Blue game? Which one would you recommend?
Chrono Phantasm,
Okay.
100%. Independently, Chrono Phantasm. For crossover game, back to that tag team. Yeah.
I remember looking into this, and with the exception of the tag game, don't all of their games begin with C? It's like Chrono Phantasm, they have like Calamity Trigger, and all of the subtitles are like C something, I think, which is, I don't know, it stuck
Yeah.
out to me.
Yeah, well, they're definitely all time based with, well, do fighting games really have a story? Some do, yeah, I guess. What stuck out to me with BlazBlue, I guess, was and when I did some research into Guilty Gear, because if a game has an anime, I'll generally check it out,
Mhm.
just to see. And most are bad. I'll admit that. I'll be the first to admit that. But some are really good, and the BlazBlue anime is actually really good, in my opinion.
Oh.
Um, yeah, and I was surprised that Guilty Gear didn't have any sort of media companion in that
Mhm.
area. Because I searched high and low for a Guilty Gear anime because I'm like, oh, I really like the characters in this. I want to know a bit more about the world and the story and that kind of thing going on. But I couldn't find anything anime wise. I think there's a manga out there, but
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to read it.
Now, you mentioned a lot of fighting games don't do much in terms of story. Do you know anything about the story of Guilty Gear? Do you know anything about like the characters in the background?
I played a little bit through the story mode of this game,
Hmm.
but I died very quickly because the game's hard. Like the
Yeah.
story mode in this is hard. I started off on medium and I had to drop it down to easy after a fight or two. Um, that that just could be a skill and an Adam problem. I don't know, but yeah, I didn't get through much of the story mode, so I don't actually know much.
I I've spent like multiple hours watching Guilty Gear lore videos on YouTube, and I still have no idea what's going on. I think it takes
Mm.
place post-apocalypse, the world's over. Some guy is trying to there's two guys and a girl, and they're trying to make like the perfect being, and then one accidentally kills the other two and then brings them back as gears. One of them, Soul Bad Guy, the main protagonist, I believe is like essentially like the reanimated corpse of one of the dead scientists, and then Justice, who is the bad guy of this game, or Justice is a girl. It's the wife scientist, like one of the villains of this, also comes back as a gear, I think. But then there's just like magic involved, and there's a guy named the guy. I don't. It's a lot, and I'm hoping if anybody is listening to this and they know Guilty Gear, please explain this story to me. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, well, it's quite funny because I picked a character at random to start off with, and it was quite kismet in a way because he's the character that is isekai'd into the world of Guilty Gear. So
Hmm.
he's from modern day Japan, Chip, and I
Okay.
think he gets isekai'd into the world of Guilty Gear.
Yeah, I tried very hard to understand this because a lot of times I come on this podcast and because I'm playing like arcade mode or I'm like playing online, I don't get this story, and I feel like as a podcast host, I should do the bare amount of research needed. And I tried really hard for this episode, and I have no idea what's happening in Guilty Gear. And so please, if anybody knows, tweet at me, email me, do write up a whole essay if you can, and please let me know.
Access commission and anime so we can know what the hell's going on in this game.
Yeah, you know what? Even better yet, turn it into a TV show. Let me watch it. Then, yeah, that totally works. We're gonna play in a minute, and I have a lot of notes to talk about after that. The one note I had before we got to the break I want to talk about is, like I said, this is the fifth or sixth version of this game, and supposedly, well, not supposedly, it is on like Metacritic and stuff. It is the lowest rated of all of the like like new revisions of this game, but it has like it's the most popular amongst fans. Like this game came out like a decade ago, and you can go to a tournament and people are still playing this. People are still making YouTube videos for this, despite it being the lowest like ranked Guilty Gear like X2 version, which I find very funny. That the critics were like, "Yeah, this isn't doing much for me," and the fans were like, "We love this. We're gonna play this for 10 more years."
Yeah, that's very interesting. Because you'd think, yeah, being the newest one, more shiny, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah, it would be the more popular. Um, and I guess we'll talk about it after the fight. But have I felt this was a smooth transition, despite the difficulty spike with the AI and the story mode.
Hmm.
The mechanics were quite easy to pick up, I found, as fighting games go.
Yeah, I don't have much Guilty Gear experience. I got Strive when it first came out, played that for a few weeks, but I didn't have anyone to play it with, and I wasn't paying for a PlayStation Online account, so I was just playing like the computer all the time, and that wasn't very fun. So I stopped playing that. So I can't say I have much of a background in Guilty Gear, but everyone's telling me like this is a really tough game to get into. It's really complex and there's a lot of buttons. And I'm sure that there are. I'm just not good enough to the point where just like having to press that many buttons is an issue for me. Just like I'm going to be bad regardless of how many buttons and how fast I need to press them.
I'll just say this though,
Mhm.
a little bit spoiler about how I feel this game, but this game made me go and download Strive on Game Pass. Like it
Oh,
helps that it's
nice.
free on Game Pass,
Hmm.
but it had been sitting on Game Pass for a while. Um, so this game's made me want to experience more Guilty Gear.
Oh, nice. I am very glad to hear that. I think this was a lot of fun, and I think the Strive, from what I remember playing, that was really fun as well. So, is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into the break?
No, let's dive in.
Okay, perfect. Listeners, we'll be right back. Stick around for this quick ad break, and when we return, we're going to have more Guilty Gear for you. Hi there. Are you in the market for a new energy drink? Are all of the same old, boring, basic energy drinks no longer exciting to you? Do they not energize you anymore? Then try Cryptid Energy. We have 7 brand spanking new flavors that you can enjoy, such as the standard Cryptic Energy, the Arctic Yeti Blitz, or the Kraken Candy. But don't take my word for it. Here are some testimonies from actual drinkers and not paid actors.
One day when I was 13, I bought a Cryptid Energy. I believe it was the Kraken Candy flavor. I was just real tired one day, and I went to my local Piggly Dog, and I grabbed me a Cryptid Energy. I noticed the can had a warning label, "Do not drink unless you are over 18. But I figured, what was the worst that was going to happen? Well, guess what? I'm still energized from that one can 21 years later. That's right, there was so much energy in that one can of Cryptid Energy that I have not slept and I have not aged in 21 years. I'm 34 now, and I'm still rolling through life using the energy of that one can. Thanks, Cryptid.
Wow, what amazing feedback. Thank you. Now I think it's time that you found your inner cryptid. Thank you for sticking through that ad break. I hope you go support whatever lovely advertiser decided to reach out to us this week. But, ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between that, everybody that said that, oh, you won't believe it. I won a game. I don't. I feel bad. I don't want to gloat too much, but I got one on the board. I won one. I'm excited. I
You,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I started this game up. I lost the first 7 episodes. So it's a. You would think someone who hosts a fighting game podcast would be good at fighting games. No, not the case. That's why I host a podcast and I don't win tournaments.
you should be proud, Mikey. You did well.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like I don't want to gloat too much, but they were very close games. So we played it was first to 3, and I won 3 games to 1, but they were like really close. We had a couple back and forth sets over there.
Yeah, most definitely. We fought through the ping a bit, I think, in that last
Mhm.
one. But by no means, like, Mikey won it. That's not slagging off his skill at all. He had it in the bag.
We had there was definitely like some wonky stuff going on with ping, but also this is just like this is a weird fighting game to begin with. I couldn't tell how much of it were
Yeah.
the characters being weird and how much of it was just us jumping all over the place because of the ping. But what the first note I have on this, and you mentioned it when we were playing. So I played Faustus the last game, and the first note I have written down here is he's a fucking weirdo. So
All the
for my
characters he chose were weird.
yeah, a lot of the and I picked Zappa. Zappa, I don't know what's going on with him. He's just like a ghost dude who doesn't have a body. He like crawls like the girl from the Ring or from the Grudge, and he shoots like skeletons out of his stomach. I don't. Maybe he relates to the story somehow, but I have no idea what's going on. So there was a I you played Milia 2 games, and I thought you liked playing as Chip, so you tricked me up with that one.
Well, Chip was the majority. Like, when I first started playing it, I definitely Chip was the one that spoke to me
Mhm.
initially. However, he's very much one of those glass cannon characters.
Mm.
So if he gets hit more than 4 times in a match, he's basically dead. And if you can't chain his combos properly, which I can't because I'm also shit at fighting games, he's dead. So I guess I moved to the more basic bitch character, for want of a better term, which is Milia. I've heard very much that she's a good starter character
Oh,
for a
okay.
lot of players because she's got a really good aerial
Mhm.
and like once you aerial juggle, and she can move through the Gatling really well. Again, that's probably what got me through that one win. Was Milia, but yeah, so I kind of moved back to the star characters. I had a bit of a play with the majority of characters, and the 3 that I used, Milia, Chip, and Eddie, all kind of were ones that stood out for me personally.
Yeah, I like it. You did really well with Milia. She controls her hair. She uses it like a whip, and like that was really good. I kept trying to like get in and attack you, but you were doing a really good job of keeping me away with your hair. And just like I couldn't get through with that one.
I was going to say she's also got a heal combo.
Okay.
It's very minuscule, but I think that match where both our bars were 0,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, I think that was that. I think that was what saved me there.
Was okay. Yeah, it was really close, and I couldn't get in with the hair. It does a really good job of keeping me away. So I thought, okay, I need something that's longer than her hair, which is why I then went to Cliff with the big sword, and then I went to
Yep.
Faust, who has an even bigger scalpel. So I don't know much about these characters. I know Soul is, despite having the last name Bad Guy, he's the good guy. He's the main protagonist. I believe Faust is a doctor who was wrongly convicted of killing a patient, or he he saved a patient and then that patient turned out to be like a super evil serial killer and he feels like he needs to put a stop to it, but he's just a doctor who instead of having a sword just a really big scalpel and wears a paper bag on his head, which I don't get, but yeah, he's, as my notes say, a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. So from my basic understanding, because Chip was the one that I actually did get through majority of the story with, who his goal in the story was to become president of the League of Assassins. So I guess
Okay.
there were three kind of factions that stood out: the assassin faction, the government, who are obviously the ones doing the experiments, and then the church, which I think has Bridget and Kai
Yeah.
in their kind of lineup. But yeah, I was more drawn towards the assassin characters being Eddie and Chip
Yeah,
and
makes
Milia.
sense. I like Eddie a lot. I play Eddie a little bit in Strive, and I think it's cool that he gets to control all of the like the monsters and stuff that come with it. Now,
Yep.
I think that's the perfect example. Like, do you listen to a lot of like hard rock or metal music? I don't know what your musical
Uh,
tastes are.
I'm
Maybe not.
I'm a new metal guy or
Oh, okay.
metalcore. So yeah.
So
I don't
there
know if you can
was
call those real metal.
just um a lot of the names of maps and characters and moves from this game are taken from like 70s and 80s like metal bands because uh the guy who made it, I'm drawing a blank, I believe it's Daisuke something, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's a big fan of like 70s and 80s metal. So um
That makes sense. Zappa, Frank Zappa,
yeah, Frank
Eddie Van
Zappa, very
Halen.
easy. Eddie, so I believe Eddie is not the guy you play as. Eddie is the monsters that you send out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because he like he's like he controls like the shadow puppets. I
Yep.
let me look up to make sure I have this right. Guilty Gear, but I believe his name. Yeah, so his name, the actual guy, his name is Zato, but he sends out Eddie the monster, who is his mascot, and Eddie is also the mascot of the band Iron Maiden. Eddie the Head.
Yeah. Ah,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
yeah. Oh, strap in. I didn't go through all of them because pretty much everyone has like some sort of like musical connection. So I wasn't gonna get into
Yep.
that. But Zap is an obvious one. There's a character Testament
Player.
that's named after the metal band Testament. The character Axel is named after Axl Rose. Um, Kai Kiske, his first name is taken from someone, and his last name is taken from someone, both from the band Halloween. I think Kai is the guitarist and Kiske is the singer, so we just put that together. There's a character. There's a character named ABBA, which I think is a funny stand-in because ABBA's not metal; it's kind of
Mhm.
like Europop. So I don't know what ABBA's doing in there. There's a character called Giovanna. Come again?
Abbott's character, from what I saw, is like a real zombie character as well. So I don't know whether there's some sort of
I, do,
connection there.
I don't get it either. I also have in my notes that ABBA is a weirdo character. She's handcuffed to a key, and she does a whole bunch of weird magic stuff like that. God, I really want to do like a deep dive into these characters because they're all like very odd and unique and different. And with the exception of knowing that they were named after musical groups, I can't tell you much I know about these characters outside of that. But in addition to having wonky characters, they also, I don't want to say they have wonky controls, but they definitely have a weird controls setup. So like Street Fighter, I think that's like my go-to. That's like the standard. They have like light, medium, and heavy punch and kicks. Nope, not this game. Do you know what the name of the Guilty Gear attacks are? Like what the buttons do?
Punch, kick, slash, high slash, and duster.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's such a weird setup. I don't. You have slash and heavy slash, and then dust. I don't. Who names one of their attacks dust? And I don't. Does that have something to do with the gears, the Guilty Gear? I don't know. But yeah, I feel bad. I feel like a lot of this episode is just me going, I don't know, but I tried really hard. It's a very confusing story. I don't know what any of this means.
One thing I found, one thing I found mechanic wise, it fills in very nicely to the Gatling. So depending on the character you can use, you can just go punch, kick, slash, high slash, duster, and that will be a 5-hit combo.
Mhm.
So I guess that's what feeds in really well to me, viewing it as a game you can relatively easily get into.
Yeah, so a lot of the combo, like it's a very combo heavy game. So a lot of the stuff like feeds into one another. There's a lot of moves that you can cancel into other moves to go faster. If you attack someone standing with punch versus like running into them with punch to make sure the game goes faster, you actually can fit more attacks if you dash into someone than if you just like stand and punch them type of thing. It's a very fast paced game, and a lot of that comes from the core mechanic of the guy who made this. His entire mentality is you gotta get good to play my game. He wanted to make it really complex, want to make it really fast, lots of like technicality stuff, because he thinks the fun in fighting games isn't necessarily fighting other people, it's mastering the mechanics of the game. So he wanted to make a mechanically depth game so people who felt the same way as he did can like participate and feel fulfillment from that.
Your thoughts on the hitboxes in particular? Because, like you said, we got a lot of weird characters with weird appendages, lots of things flying across the screen. So I'd love to know your thoughts on like the hitboxes and where that kind of stands.
There's so many weird stuff because Faust, he's like I keep going back to Faust, but he's my favorite character. He's like tall and skinny, but then he can also crouch down where he looks almost like a spider or a bat, and he just like flops a foot out at you, and just like his hurt box gets really really tiny, just like when you crouch. But something that they did to make up for that is if you get hit in crouch versus when you get hit standing up, stuck in hit stun for longer. So if someone punches you when you're crouching, they can do more damage and do a longer combo than if they punch you if you're standing. So I think again that's to like dissuade you from playing like defensively because you're gonna get like hurt for it in the long run.
Yeah, I very much feel like this is a very attack heavy game. Whilst it does have the good things in it for defense, like infinite guard, which I saw we were both using, which is your block +2 punch and kick button. That was very good, and the grab animation as well. I feel, I don't know. I was reading something about a defense grab or something like that, or how you can kind of cancel grab to kind of get out of that defensively. But yeah, I definitely feel like attack, they want you to rush forward on the attack. They don't want you to hold back and be defensive in this game.
Yeah, they even so there's hold on, what I have it written down here. I think it's called a force break, where if you're in the middle of a combo, you can press a certain combination of buttons, and you kind of flash, and it interrupts the combo that you're in the middle of, so the two of you can reset, so you can go back to being offensive. And like, yes, that's a defensive mechanic, but it's not the same thing as shielding. It encourages you to break the combo, and then for you to turn around and keep comboing yourself as compared to just like shielding in the corner. Um, but that does take meter, which I think they call tension in this game. And they have a few different moves that use different amounts of tension that you can like break out of stuff like that. But I think it does a lot like mechanics wise that even when they're playing defensively, it's still like very fast paced and in your face like that.
It's a big change up, and I don't know why I didn't talk about this in the first half when I had my chance. Jump Force is probably the game that I've put the most hours in, fighting wise. And the reason I bring it up is I had no idea how to do the ultimates in this game. I'd never once been able to pull off like that ultimate insta kill attack. And I don't even know how it kind of works. So
I completely forgot that was in here. I could not pull it off either. There's literally a move that's called insta kill that I believe every character has. That if you can pull off this like long string combo, it just like pretty much one hit kills your opponent. And like I only had a few weeks to play this game. I could not pull it off, and even if I had a few months to play this game, I don't know if I'll do it.
Yep, and I feel like that's something arcade fighters do well because they own it. They make that ultimate really hard to do, whereas like the 3D fighters that we're seeing kind of breaking in the market, they make it really easy to pull off ultimates. Like all you have to do is charge your bar 4 times, and then you can press up and B, and you do an ultimate. Whereas this one's a string of 8 different directions plus 2 buttons plus up plus down plus it's just insane.
Yeah, it's all over the place, and I think it's cool that it rewards you that if you can pull it off, cool. But I also think it uses all of your meter, and if you miss it, I think you're kind of just like stuck there for a long time. You're like frozen, so it gives the opponent a chance to like come back, and they can then do like a massive string attack on you as like a counterbalance to you trying to one hit kill them. Having played some of these characters and seeing how they felt, I went through and I have the tier list of what characters the professionals think are the best and what characters they think are the worst. Who do you think who do you think are the worst characters in this game? I don't know how many how many of them you got a chance to play.
Characters that I would use, or characters I think the professionals would use?
Characters you think that are the worst, that are like trash tier all the way at the bottom. I'm gonna start there.
Okay. Probably Bridget.
She's it. She's the bottom one. I don't know if it's number 26 or 27. But
Yes.
she's the best. Good job.
Yeah, well, she looks like a nun, so I don't think she'd make a very good fighter.
And all of her attacks are based around a yo-yo, which I think is very funny.
And then probably after that, I don't know really who. Soul would be like the main character is always middle tier. They're never the best character. I'm just pulling up the character list now and having a look.
No, you're good. You got Bridget. That
Slayer, the vampire guy.
which one was the vampire guy? I don't remember.
Slayer, the one with the monocle.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And the big guy with the metal arms. What was his name?
Potemkin.
Yeah, that's it.
I want to like Potemkin. When I got this game, I tried to play as Potemkin, and I don't really like the big slow grappler characters normally, but there's something about this character that I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna like this guy. Nope, didn't do it for me.
And then if we're looking at the other end of
Mhm.
the spectrum, though, I reckon everyone uses Testament and Justice because they're like the big boss
Mhm.
type characters. They're the end boss, so I'm guessing they'd be the top tier.
Yeah, so Testament's up there. I was looking into it. Justice is like relatively low because in the game Justice was a boss character, so they like nerfed her a lot to make her like playable, so she's not a
Okay.
boss, and they did it too much in that direction. But
Yep.
general top tiers, we have Testament, Zappa, who I played for one match, Dizzy, and Biken. Apparently, Biken's number one. So
Okay. Is Dizzy the bubble girl?
let me check. I think so. Let me see. I didn't get a chance to play as Dizzy, and there were a lot of
Yeah.
characters in this. So Dizzy is
Yeah.
the one that looks like it has an angel and a demon on her shoulder. I don't know if that shows up in the camera.
Yep.
But I can see Biken being top tier. She's like really fast. She's got the sword. A lot of times, like fast characters do well in these type of games because they can just like overwhelm the opponent, so they don't have any options left.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, Justice was nerfed. Justice was one of the boss characters they put in it. The other boss character was Cliff, who I used for a little bit. Cliff, he's really slow. He doesn't move around very fast, but he's got a big sword. He's like throwing out like big hitboxes, so it's like tough to avoid that.
Yeah, because I used Eddie when you were versing him, and we kind of had a stalemate because I was throwing out the monsters, you were throwing out the sword. We were on opposite sides of the stage from each other, and I think that's probably the most defensive we were because we were both like, oh, we're trying to throw our not long range, but
Yeah.
throw out our big stuff at each other whilst the characters stay safe and sound.
And I think that's unique for like that match because argument's sake, if you play it as like Soul Bad Guy or like Kai or someone where they didn't have that long range option, I could just get at you with the sword the whole time. But we both had to play really slow and
100%.
defensively because we both had really good long range attacks. So that's all I got for my notes. We ran through everything that I want to talk about. Do you have any thoughts on anything you like about this game? Anything you don't like about this game?
Not really. Hey, like even the stage design is quite good, and the music and the graphics. Like this game was originally released, on the Vita, 2013. For this one, so that's very interesting. The graphics don't look too bad for something from that time. Again, you can't really mess up an arcade fighter. I guess something that Street Fighter does really well that I didn't see in this game is background kind of action.
Yeah.
So like in Street Fighter, you've got the characters moving around, you've got the infamous car that provides the environmental damage. So I guess just some more perhaps environmental stuff would have been something I would have liked to have seen. Not necessary by any means, but yeah, it's just something that other fighting games of the ilk have done well that weren't there. And I guess something I don't like, which you didn't do, thankfully, I did a couple of times to you that I broke out of, is bloody grab spamming.
Mm-hmm.
That could get really annoying really quick,
Yeah.
I think, because the grabs are kind of like a be-all, end-all kind of
Mm-hmm.
clinch move there. Very hard to dodge, very hard to break out of.
Yeah, when I was playing this game, I was grabbing the computer some, but luckily, like when I did it today, I played enough characters that had like a long range attack that I didn't need to get up close to grab you. But I forget who it was, but it was probably Potemkin. When I was playing the computer was real grab heavy. They kept trying to get that move on me, and there's a lot of movement options in this game, and I think that again leads to it being a really quick, fast-paced, aggressive game. But all of the characters have two jumps, which I think is unique for a 2D fighter like this. I can't think of many fighting games outside of like Smash Bros that have a double jump. But also, all of the characters have an air dash, so you can jump and then like double tap forward or backward and like essentially like run in the air to like get in and out of like attacks even quicker than that. And so, the only thing I have left is a question for you. That if you were on the development team, you were in charge of making the characters, and you were allowed to add one character to this game, who would you add? I know Guilty Gear, they kind of have like their own pool of characters, so it doesn't have to be an exact person. It could be someone with a play style. It could be someone with an aesthetic, like, oh, I want like a samurai from the future. If you want to throw in like a guest character from another like Arc Systems game, just you're in charge of the character pool, who would you add? Or what type of character would you add?
I'm a big fan of swords.
Mhm.
Like every kind of game, I try to mainline with the sword character. So probably a dual wielding. So
Okay.
someone like Chip who uses the kunais,
Mhm.
however, two long swords. Again, someone needing that real fast paced, kind of good for beginners, easy to
Mhm.
transition between combos. So ideally, probably someone like Baze, who I didn't end up using. Unfortunately, maybe I should have tried her out, and I would have got on really well with her. Because that basically the character that's type of like Bacon, sorry, yeah, Bacon. Um, a sword wielder who's quick, good, easy for beginners to kind of break into the game.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I can't think of anyone I would add. I don't have enough. I would probably just like add another like really. Oh, you know what? You know who I'm adding? It's a character from later games, Bedman, where it's just
Okay.
it's Bedman was just announced as DLC for Strive, and like everything in this game, I have no idea what's going on there. But from my understanding, Bedman is this girl who's
Uh,
in a
yeah,
robot hospital bed, and
yep. I'm looking at the right now.
yeah, and
That's weird shit.
it's weird and it's wonky, or and honestly, I'm sure all of the diehard Guilty Gear fans are listening to this like, oh, just like why didn't they pick X, Y, or Z character? I don't know anything about Bedman except that it's a weird character, and I want more weirdness in this game.
100%. That's a good pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't touched Strive in a while, but when they announced Bedman, I'm like, that character's just weird enough that I might pay the $6 to get that and then try it out. Coming back into this game.
Yep. Actually, I do have an actual guest character
Mhm.
I'd
Oh,
like to see, and that'd be Ermac from Mortal Kombat.
okay.
I reckon he'd fit in really well with the weird ass kind of
Yeah.
spellcaster kind of feel.
Oh yeah. I can definitely see that. I feel like do they have? Oh yeah, yeah. There's magic. I was gonna say, do they have any magic users? I guess there's a whole bunch of like weird stuff going on in this. But yeah, I think Ermac would go well. But yeah, so that's everything I got. So unless you have anything more to talk about, please, the platform is yours. Tell us about your podcast. Tell us about where we can find you. If you have a favorite episode or one you think we should check out, please feel free to throw that in there. The platform is yours.
Excellent, thanks. So like I mentioned at the start, guys, I host the Revival and Extinction podcast, a podcast where I basically move through my backlog, where I used to play a game for at least 5 hours. Now I complete them and then talk about them to you guys. I also talk about anime as well. That's a big love of mine. And there is quite a good relationship between the game and the anime world. A lot of games I've discovered because I've watched an anime. A lot of anime I've discovered from playing a video game and wanting to know more about the world. I'm basically all over socials, Twitter/X under RevivePod. You can find me on the Steam Machine Network Discord, bit.ly/TSMP Discord, all caps, and on Spotify, iTunes, not Stitcher anymore, whatever the new Stitcher is, under Revival and Extinction. It's been a little while since I've put out an episode. However, I am getting close to the end of the game that I'm currently playing, which is Like a Dragon Ishin.
Nice.
So that will be dropping at sometime in November. And I like doing weird games as well. So one of the episodes that I would probably recommend is Bendy and the Ink Machine,
Okay.
which is like an indie horror game. I've also covered a lot of Assassin's Creed as well in the past. So if you like those, check those episodes out.
I was about to say, I like the Assassin's Creed episode. Very much my interest. I'm going to go ahead and say I liked the Multiverses episode. I think that was a fun one. But, yeah, I was about to say, if you have that in November, this will come out either November or right after that. So, yeah, go check out that one. And I've never played Bendy and the Ink Machine, but for a while, like, my neighbor was really into that game. And he kept like, Mike, you gotta play Bendy. So I haven't yet, but I'll probably go check out that episode tomorrow. And then depending on your thoughts on the game, I might go get Bendy like the next day.
It's weird because my kid actually recommends me quite a few of those
Okay.
indie horror games. So like Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy, all those type of things that he sees YouTubers playing.
Mhm.
He's like, "Oh, Dad, we should play that." So then I go and end up playing it, and I end up loving it.
Oh, that's not.
And they always have such deep lore to them.
Mhm.
Like on the surface, it's a very simple game, but then you can get on like a YouTube rabbit hole and just hear things about it for hours and hours on end.
I was listening to the Multiverses episode. And I thought it was really cute. I don't know how old your kids are, but at one point you were like, "Yeah, I like to play Multiverses with him. Sometimes when he plays Fortnite, I like to watch Fortnite with him just to make sure there's like no one shit talking him on the mic or something. make sure everybody on the mic is like clean." I'm like, "Oh, that's so sweet. I think it's cool that you get to like play video games with like your next generation, you know?"
Yeah, because I remember when I was a kid, my parents were quite not strict because they
Mhm.
did let me play video games, but they were very out of touch with the video game kind of scene in the 90s. Like they aren't the best tech heads by any means. I still need help my mum with her computer and all that type of stuff. So it's a great experience being able to play with my kids
Mhm.
and that they're into gaming.
Yeah, very nice. And okay, so you heard it here. Go check out Bendy and the Ink Machine. I like the Multiverses episode. And if you like anime, there's anime on it now. So that's cool to know too. But and like I said at the start of the episode, all of that will be in the show notes. So if you're driving, if you're working, no need to scramble, no need to get into a car accident trying to write down his Twitter or his X. I have it all in the links below. As for me, you can find us on social media at 02 Heroes Pod. That's right. I finally changed the social media to represent this podcast and not the old podcast that we don't do anymore. So everything, I there was like a 3 month span where I wasn't sure when I was going to change it over, and I would always end the episode with, "I don't need to plug my socials. You know where to find me." So, but I have finally new socials now. You can find us at 02 Heroes Pod. If you're listening to this, you already know where to find us on the RSS feed. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far. And I got nothing else for you. Go check out Guilty Gear. It's weird. It's fun. I had a good time. Go check out Revival and Extinction. It's not weird, but it's still a good time. It's like a very good podcast. And once more, I'd like to say thank you for accommodating the weird time zones. I know you're working from home right now, so I appreciate you taking some time out of your day for this. But
Let's
I,
edit that bit out.
I was gonna CC your boss on the tweet when this went live, but I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and take that one out. But no, for real, thank you so much for accommodating the weird times with this. I had a lot of fun playing with you. I appreciate this. I'm glad Guilty Gear worked out with us.
Yeah, thanks, man. I had a blast, and I love what you're doing as well. You're
Thank
doing a
you.
great job.
I appreciate that. Well, listeners, I appreciate you making it this far in the episode, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.